We have this very romantic idea about creativity, don't we? We focus, we meditate, we stare at the page until blood runs forth, and then the muse hears our call, descends from on high, touching us with the olive branch of inspiration. And then it happens. Then all of it comes together. Lightning strikes, our North Pole aligns. We see the way. The Norse had different ideas. They, like myself, also believed that inspiration came in liquid form. I have wine and coffee, and they had a magical mead that could turn any, regular content creator into somebody that's a master at their craft, beloved, adored, showered in likes and Patreon subscriptions. You can click those down below, by the way. But the recipe for the mead, well, it involved the spit of the gods, blood of a murdered genius, two homicidal dwarves, a giant, some industrial espionage, and a messy bird chase. Let's get into it. Today we're delving into the bizarre, grisly, and surprisingly profound story of the Mead of Poetry. It is a tale that reframes creativity not as a gift from a muse, but as a dangerous substance that must be earned, fought for, maybe even stolen, or some might kill for it. And if you're a writer or a creator or anyone who has ever stared at a blank page in distress, this is some lore you might want to steal. Our story begins, as many often do, with the end of a war. The two great tribes of the gods, the Aesir, that's Odin and Thor's company, great warriors, and the mystical Vanir, that's Freya and Freyr, and some free frittata, I think. The ones with fertility and magic. I just finished a rather long and winding war that it seemed very inconclusive by the end of it, and they decided to get together and perform a ritual. Each god from both stepped around a vat and spit in it, like that old handshake thing. I wonder if that's where we got it from. In any case, yes, the ultimate divine peace treaty was basically a cosmic spit take. Any spit. Oh no, this was the saliva of the gods. And from this potent and rather, potentially unhygienic mix, was formed a person, a new being, and his name was Kazimer. Now, Kazimer was a genius. He wasn't a god of anything in particular, but he was just a being that was so wise, so brilliant, that he could answer any question. He wandered the 9 realms, sharing his wisdom and knowledge with everyone, just a walking, talking font of knowledge and poetry, solving disputes and being just genuinely very clever.
You're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
So as you probably have guessed, made people want to kill him. Specifically, 2 dwarves named Fjalar and Galar. Norse-liked rhyming names. You don't think Tolkien made up the rhyming dwarf names by himself, did you? Dwarves in Norse myth aren't just miners. They're master craftsmen, and those 2 were particularly nasty pieces of work. They invite Kazimer over for a chat, murder him, drain his blood into 3 great vats. Then they mix that genius-infused blood with honey, because why not? There you have it, the mead of poetry, a substance so powerful that 1 sip can make you a scholar and a poet. So step 1, in our recipe for creativity, the brutal murder of the inspiration itself. Feeling inspired yet? Well, Fjalar and Galar's murder spree wasn't over. Later, they kill a giant named Gilling, just for laughs, because that's how pranks were done in the ancient Norse times, apparently. It's not the only time that happens. Gilling's son, Suttungr, a giant with a very big temper and very little patience, comes for revenge. Now, to save their own skins, the dwarves offer him the thing that they have of most value, the entire supply of the mead of poetry. Suttungr takes the mead, hides it in a vault deep inside a mountain, and sets his own daughter, let's see if I get this right, Gunloth, to guard it day and night. And there the mead sits, the world's entire supply of inspiration, locked away in a mountain vault, thousands of miles away, beyond the fjords, over the river, and through the woods, covered in ice, uphill, both ways, until, of course, someone decides he has to have it. And that someone is me.
It was me!
It's Odin. Odin, the All-Father, the god of many things, war, wisdom, death, and also poetry. He can't stand the idea of all that creative genius being locked away, and he knows he can't fight the massive giant Stungar head-on, so he decides on a different approach. A 9-month-long con job.
You son of
You son of a I'm in.
He disguises himself as a farmhand, goes to work for Stungar's brother, Boggy. He uses wits to create some workplace accidents, slowly getting rid of the other farmhands, and then takes their place for an entire summer. His payment? He asks for 1 drink of his brother's famous mead. Now, Boggy agrees, but Stungar flat out is like, not happening, not doing it. So Odin and Boggy decide to drill into the mountain. This really is a heist story. Once the hole is made, Odin shapeshifts into a snake and slithers inside. Now, he finds the giant's daughter, Gunnloth, guarding the 3 vats. And what does the king of the gods do? He puts the moves on her.
All right, listen, I didn't want to have to do this, but you leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
He spends 3 nights with her, and in exchange, and she agrees to grant him 3 sips of the mead. Odin apparently knew how to lay it down. And if you give the king of Asgard 3 sips, he's going to take 3 barrels. With the first sip, he drains the first vat. Second, empties the second. Third, he chugs every last drop, and then Stungar walks in. Not all too happy about finding his daughter with Odin.
Smoke bomb!
Odin then transforms himself into a massive eagle and makes a frantic flight back to Asgard with the furious giant, hot on his heels, also in eagle form because everybody could transform back then. So anyway, the other gods see Odin coming, and they quickly set out the vats. Odin swoops over Asgard and, like a mother bird, just regurgitates the precious mead into the vats. I'm not making any of this up. Just bah! But Stungar is right behind him, so in his panic, he leaks a little, and some of the mead out of the other end. And that is how inspiration is brought to the gods, and eventually to us lesser beings, mankind. Just in case anyone is unclear, the text does say the source of inspiration for lesser poets, those who ate the bird droppings. Guano. Alright, so, bizarre, yes, a little disgusting, maybe, but the story is a nice metaphor for creation. So the meat of poetry isn't just like a shiny object, it's not just a box or a book, it is, again, a little messy. By the time Odin goes after it, it's already got a deep history. It's made from the spit of the gods, the blood of a sage, the greed of dwarves, the vengeance of the giants. It has provenance and a body count. You might be seeing a pattern here. But if you've read Shakespeare, a lot of body counts per story. Yeah, George R. R. Martin wasn't the first person to start killing off main characters. So let's unpack this. We have a war between the gods, sealed with a pact and a promise. That pact creates a being, Kvasir, in this case, but it doesn't have to be that specifically. The gods could create a sword and place it in a stone. Okay. They could create a vat that they seal away, and then somebody else has to go find it, and maybe some other shenanigans have to happen there. You've got, in Lord of the Rings, you've got the ring that Gollum literally strangles somebody for, and there's a lot of death and destruction just to get that one object. And giving your talisman, whatever it is, that sort of history is very important in investing people in the stories. One of the things that I've seen in fantasy that tends to lose people very quickly is an overabundance of magical objects. Now, if the purpose is that, yeah, magic's everywhere, like if it's one of the anime series where just everybody's got magic, there's magic, then I guess it doesn't matter as much, but the objects definitely lose meaning very quickly. Whereas, like, think Lord of the Rings, there's only a couple of enchanted items that you come across in the books. I mean, obviously a lot of other things are alluded to, but, Gandalf's ring, the Sword of Isildur, the ring, And so each one of those objects has a lot of weight to them because they're rare, because there aren't just, magical items sitting in everybody's cupboard at home. When you create the central object of your story, don't be generic. Ask yourself, who made it? What did they have to do to make it? What were some bad things that they maybe had to do? What sacrifices did they have to make? What materials that were possibly questionable in their acquisition? And there you have backstory. Is somebody after those materials? Is somebody after revenge for those materials being taken for them? Is somebody after revenge for the people that were hurt in getting those materials? You see where this is kind of going. Who stole it? Who's guarding it now? The object that carries the weight of like a dark and sordid past is much more compelling than, something that just appeared out of thin air. Now, another piece of this story that I feel is worth examining is looking at your hero as a trickster. All right, one of the things that was very different about Lord of the Rings and Hobbit was that Hobbit was the main character, this small, very unassuming fellow. Yeah, he's got great warriors all around him, but it's not just their story, it's his story. And because of the unlikely hero, it ends up being a lot more engaging. Now with Odin is a great warrior. He's got his mighty spear. He's got magic. He's got a lot of resources. But he usually tries to think his way through the problem. He tries to find some way to use subterfuge or manipulation or coercion. So it's not always about brute force with him. He's a con artist, a spy, an infiltrator. He's just looking for ways to outmaneuver and outthink his opponent. When your hero or protagonist faces an impossible obstacle, maybe try to think of something else. Maybe they come up against the stone wall, that they can't overcome. Maybe there's an opponent that's just too powerful. It's like, okay, then what? Yeah, we could go, certain shojin or shonen routes where they just keep getting stronger and stronger and leveling up. And that can be fun in its own way. But, maybe a well-planned heist, a clever con, maybe an act of social engineering that, kind of gets other people to work on their side. That could be fun, turning the hero that turns the, Dark Lord's own minions against them. Just like a smear campaign. That could be a lot of fun. You don't just have to write a battle, you can write a whole operation. Now, one of my favorite parts about the myth is that it is that pure poetry comes into the world from the mead that Odin very carefully stole, swallowed, and then regurgitated. And the little bit that slipped out during his panic flight, that's the story. And there's also something fun about this metaphor that not every idea that somebody has is going to be gold. Sometimes they're just bird droppings. Sometimes you're channeling the divine. Sometimes you're just producing content. And that's okay. This story gives us permission to be imperfect. It acknowledges that the messy first draft, the panic deadline, the idea that just isn't right, it's all part of the same process. And you can't have genius without some of the junk along the way. So next time you're feeling uninspired, you don't have to wait for a gentle muse. Gentle muse. Think of Odin. What would Odin do? Bracelets pending. Creativity isn't always pretty. Sometimes you have to be clever, ruthless, willing to steal from a giant's basement. You have to accept that not all of it will be perfect when it comes out, but the effort, the chase itself, makes you a better storyteller. What's the strangest origin story you've come across from an object? Feel free to leave that in the comments. And if you enjoyed this little bit of creative license, like and subscribe, maybe share, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.